Rouse's is proud of the creativity and the unparalleled entertainment in New Orleans, and honored to highlight it with their sponsorship of Steppin Out on WYES.
Steppin Out is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
With a lifetime of passion for public television, we're pleased to help underwrite Steppin Out.
Please join us in supporting WYES TV.
Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, with updates from the local restaurant, arts, and entertainment scenes. Joining me, Poppy Tucker, host of Louisiana Eats on WWNO Radio. Hey, Miss Poppy.
Hello, Peg.
Hello. And also with us, Clare Burovac, operating director for the New Orleans Opera Association. Welcome.
Thanks
welcome
so
to
much.
our wonderful show here. And of course, Alan Smason, editor of the Crescent City Jewish News and theatercriticism.com. Hi there.
Hi there.
Hi there. Poppy, it's almost king cake time, huh?
Well, it's coming, you know. The Christmas is over, and here comes the Epiphany. And holy moly, what an epiphany you will have in the big book of king cake. It is actually that big. There are over 80 different king cakes, and the folks who bake them that are profiled in this book. It's a gorgeous coffee table size book. For anybody who loves king cake, it's a great choice. And then we have to talk about the king cake business that really revolutionized king cake in the last few years, and that's King Cake Hub. And even though we miss Will Samuel so much, the Hub is back at Zoni Mash Beer Project. And oh my goodness, are they getting in the mood? They actually made a King Cake Imperial Pastry Stout that will be on tap. But the big event happening January 6th at 8:30 on is the kickoff. Monk Boudreaux, Bo Dallas and the Wild Magnolia, Professor Carnival. There'll be dancing groups like the Sassy Racks and the Bombshells. There will be over 60 different king cakes there every day, and Jennifer Samuel said that she's really looking forward to the salted caramel from Canada's. And King Cake Hub will also be operating a little offshoot at the Historic New Orleans Collection gift shop. And then, you know, there's just so much to say about king cakes this season. We just had a big reveal. If you missed it, Brennan's has a new flavor. I don't know how it took them a year to come up with a bananas Foster king cake. Seems like a no-brainer for Brennan's. And Gracious Bakery, oh my gracious. I just would like to show everybody, if perhaps you want to send somebody a little treat, go ahead and get the New Orleans King Cake Kit from Gracious Bakery. It's at King Cake Hub, but it's also at all the Gracious Bakery stores and all over the place. And their beautiful king cakes, of course, are back with the king being the Vallerona chocolate, the queen, the almond frangipani, nectar cream, the galette de Roi made of puff pastry. And maybe if sweet isn't your thing, you should run on over to La Boulangerie and enjoy one of their pretzel king cakes with, of course, a spicy mustard dipping sauce. But you know, Peg, my favorite, the one I look forward to every year, is the Elvis from Cochon Butcher. And it's beautiful, it's delicious, but to tell you the truth, I love those little pigs that are the favor in the Cochon Butcher king cakes. And so I just collect them every year. Got a little troop of pigs on my kitchen windowsill.
So much creativity, huh, Poppy?
So much delicious fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. And over to Alice.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap because, we're getting towards the end of the year. We need to sort of think about where we've been and where we're going. This past year really seems so long ago, but, it's only been less than a year that the immunizations first started being given out. And, we were still in a virtual mode. I remember the very first show that I was involved with was the Awakening of Kate Chopin, which I produced with, of course, Maxwell Williams directing, Rosary O'Neill's The Awakening of Kate Chopin with the wonderful Jen Pagan, and, of course, the delightful and very talented Diane Shortis there in the titular role of Kate Chopin. The year opened with JPAS leading the way. The World Is My Home with a tribute to Paul Robeson done in a one-man show by Stogie Kenyatta. There he is with the maestro himself, Dennis Asaf. And Dennis, of course, had several shows on the boards. You remember the clear mask that the cast wore in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with JPAS presenting, again at the JPAC. And they continued with a very fine Arsenic and Old Lace starring Leon Conavespri and Janet Shea, among others. Rivertown opened its doors with Nonsense and later did Grease for the younger set. Summer Lyric Theater at Tulane presented its first work off-site at the New Orleans Jazz Museum. And that was the Old Mint, of course, for those of you who may remember it as thus. The first show of the season was outdoors, and then they returned to Dixon Hall for the first of two shows there. Grand Night for Singing, the Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein musical, sort of like a jukebox musical for them, and the 50th anniversary of Jesus Christ Superstar. But, Rivertown had its own answer to them in the form of Joseph's The Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That was in Kenner. Then Hurricane Ida came in and blew everybody really a serious blow to theater in New Orleans, a terrible damage to JPAS's facilities at JPAC in West Wego. Finally, though, Le Petit opened with the glorious Brian Batt in Dear Mr. Williams, an homage to his own autobiography and the life of Tennessee Williams. Again, though, Peggy, not everything happened on the South Shore. Quite a bit of great work was happening on the North Shore. The Sweet Potato Queens were seen at the Cutting Edge Theater, which brought the great singer and composer Melissa Manchester there. And then you've got Sunset Boulevard, which I would have never believed a small group could be able to pull off. They did it quite nicely. And then they had a fantastic performance of Cabaret. Also, not to be missed, Lydell Little Theater did two great shows of Once on This Island and Matilda. What a wonderful show that was. Both Rivertown and JPAS came back towards the end of the year again, rehabbing their theaters. Rivertown had to take to St. Martin's Episcopal for them to do Hello Dolly with Ashley Smetherman Lemler in the title role. And Enrico Canella and Callie Russell, of course, were Gomez and Morticia Adams in the JPAS production at the East Jefferson High School auditorium that we know, of course, in their past history there. And one other thing that happened, a little bit of change, the NOLA project went through some changes due to the pandemic as well. And they recently presented some fairy tales with a modern bent in Tell It To Me Sweet, written by their newly announced co-artistic director, Brittany Williams, who is also a new mother. So we congratulate her on that. And one of my favorite shows this season was also the BB Stage Door Canteen production of Tom Hook and Wendell Brunius to the World War II Museum of Swing That Music. It was a tribute show to Louis Armstrong, fantastic. And finally, last week's play, the Thanksgiving play, was not so much an important play for Southern Rep as it was symbolically the last of the great producing companies to reopen after the pandemic. They had a short run, but we're glad to have them back on the boards.
Very good. Thank you so much. And back over to Clare. And Clare, welcome. This is your Steppin Out debut. And, of course, you've taken over the reins from Robert Lyle, who's still around, and we have to certainly point that out. But what a season you have coming up. So much of a season that it's kind of like the first thing's going to be hard to get in if you don't have your tickets already. Tell us about that.
That's right. We're opening our season. Well, we're opening the 22 year with an homage to Josephine Baker at the Marigny Opera House. And unfortunately, we are already sold out for all 4 of the performances of January 6th through 9th. But we do have a waiting list, so folks can contact our box office to get on the waiting list. This is a co-production with the Marigny Opera House Ballet, and it's a 2-part presentation of the opera Josephine, starring Laquita Mitchell, written by Tom Chiapullo, and then the ballet will come on stage for a a dance that's inspired, a world premiere dance inspired by all the work that Josephine Baker did in her performance career. That's in January. Then we move back to the Mahalia Jackson Theater in February. We'll be performing a gala concert, and Robert Lyle will be on the podium once again. This will feature our chorus, and this will be the first time that they're back on stage as a group in 2 years since February of 2020 in the pandemic. That's February 11th and 13th.
Claire, may I say that I'm so excited because I saw some of the stars that will be performing, and Emily Tragle is going to be with you.
That's true.
Who
Yeah,
just
we're
won the
very
Met
excited.
auditions, and of course the granddaughter of Norman Tragle, who is very beloved here and professional opera star. So
Absolutely.
What a great connection.
Yeah, we're very, very excited about her to be on the stage. Her win at the Met Finals in last March was quite a coup for the city of New Orleans and the quality of opera training that's going on in the city. So she'll be great on stage.
And then next up, the big one.
That's right. Our first full production since the pandemic closed our doors. We'll be presenting Puccini's La Bohème April 1st and 3rd. And there's a reason that this opera is known as the most beloved opera of all time. We'll be doing 2 performances. This is sure to sell out as well. So you can get your tickets for neworleansopera.org on our website.
All right, thank you so much. Looking forward to all of that. I had the great good fortune to see Die Valkyrie and Act 1 a few weeks ago, and it was so wonderful. And I love the staging, and simple but brilliant, but also the background, the videos were really imaginative too. So congratulations on that as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
You had a good crowd too, which
Yes.
is great. So thank you. You know, Anne Rice was born in New Orleans, of course, and sold over 100 million copies of her books, many set here, including her most famous, An Interview with a Vampire. She passed away recently, but she never forgot her New Orleans roots. A reboot of An Interview with a Vampire is being filmed as a TV series for AMC. In the year 2000, part of the WYES documentary, The Uptown That Was, we interviewed her, and we thought we would share some memories.
But the real sound, of course, the dominant sound, was the streetcar. And sometimes I still hear that streetcar in my head. I think I'm hearing it pull to a stop and then go on. You know, the sound is a haunting sound. I used to go to sleep with that sound, you know, right outside, and I really grew to love it. Well, I remember all the way back to the Banana Man with the wagon and the mule. I remember him going around and calling out bananas in a long, 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 long series of syllables. I think he said banana, na, 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 like that. And of course, we had a vegetable man that came by in a truck, and he would call my mother, and she'd go out there and argue with him about tomatoes. That was one of the sounds in the neighborhood. My mother arguing about those tomatoes and what they cost.
One of New Orleans' lost landmarks was located on the edge of Uptown, the original main branch of the New Orleans Public Library. Facing Lee Circle, it was built in 1907 through the generosity of philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. He paid for the construction of public libraries nationwide.
Oh, I was so sorry when that building was torn down. I mean, there's so much to weep for, and that's one of the things that I weep for is that building. It was great. It was grass outside. You know, it was built up. You had to walk up steps to go in it, and you could sit out on that grass and read too. And we would skip the children's department altogether. We would go upstairs, and there was an enormous reading room with great big windows where you could take books out of the stack and you could come and find a table and sit there and read without ever checking the book out.
Those visits to the library inspired a passion that resulted in her life's work.
We would go back in the stacks, and the stacks had green glass floors. And I would just sit down on the floor and go through book after book, you know? And I remember reading a lot in that library. I read horror stories, English horror tales, which later very much influenced my writing. We checked out a lot of books, and I was often painfully overdue. I'd go in there and I'd give these long excuses about what happened and so forth. And I think I was able to strike some bargains. And every now and then they'd say, "You don't belong up here, you belong in the children's section." So we'd get banished to the children's section for a little while, but then we'd get back upstairs.
The movie shown at the Granada Theater planted the seed for one of the most famous novels set in New Orleans.
We used to go all the time. The Technicolor pictures were on Sundays, and black and white movies were on the weekday nights, including Friday night. And that's where I saw Dracula's Daughter, the black and white movie that later inspired me to write Interview with the Vampire. It was as a little girl at the Granada Theater. So I loved going there, and I went there for years and have very, very, very vivid memories. I remember the woman behind the candy counter. She had curly gray hair, though she was young. And I remember the manager. He was bald, and he always wore a blue suit with a red carnation, and I think he had white socks.
That's pretty clear memory.
Yeah, I remember him walking up and down the aisles trying to make the boys behave. Again, it's always the boys that misbehave, just like at St. Alphonsus, the boys were noisy. Well, they misbehaved in the Granada Theater.
And special thanks, we so miss Ann Rice, but special thanks to writer-editor Steven Tyler on the Uptown That Was. And by the way, copies are available at WYES.org, as is info about our passport feature that enables you to view many of our local documentaries. By the way, there was an incredible photo I just wanted to point out in that of little Ann Rice. I don't know if you saw that. She was behind, this table, but in the front were some puppets. And one of the puppets, okay, this is the ooh, okay moment, was a vampire. And thanks so much to longtime librarian, New Orleans Public Library, Wayne Everhard, for finding that photo. Is amazing. Now back to Poppy.
Well, I don't really have much to look back on from 2021 because, it really wasn't much fun for a lot of the people in the restaurant and hospitality industry. So I'm looking forward. And if you want to know what I'm really looking forward to, Chemin à la Mer. Now, this is Donald Link's new restaurant that opened up right around Thanksgiving in the new Four Seasons Hotel. How about that Grand Plat de Mer? And the food, the menu's gorgeous. Pan-roasted salmon with beluga lentils. There is a beautiful cast iron seared culotte with fries. That's a very unusual and fabulous piece of steak that you don't usually see. But there's familiar things that we'll all know and love, like Donald's seafood gumbo. And they have been serving breakfast and dinner since Thanksgiving. How about a little oatmeal with walnuts and bananas? Isn't that the most glamorous bowl of oatmeal you ever did see? And, a French goat cheese omelet with fines herbes, just perfect French food. It's on the 5th floor where you get that incredible pool deck view. Now, what are you going to catch me doing in 2022? Well, here's my fantasy visit to the Four Seasons. We'll have a little foie gras and caviar service at the Chandelier Bar where the champagne's always flowing. And then I'll head up to Chemin à la Mer for the beef tartare. It's going to be perfect, and I'll see you there.
Okay, thank you so much. Back over to Alan.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about transitions. The year closes, and of course we note the passing of several people. Paramount, I think, among all of them was Jim O'Quinn, and there's a picture of Jim in his interview with Tony Kushner. They were close friends. They grew up together, if you will, on Broadway. Jim, of course, hailed from Louisiana, but so did Tony, and they, of course, naturally were attracted to one another in terms of their basic business sense for theater. And Tony was working in the same building and really down the floor from where Jim was. Jim had many of his friends who assembled online with me. We had some wonderful people there, local actors as far as that goes, but also people like Todd London and Rob Weinert Kent, who took over from Jim as the founding editor of American Theater Magazine, and several other people, as I said, Deep Tron, who owes a lot of her career early on to Jim, Brenda Curran, and other people like that. So again, we want to thank all of those who assembled. One of the other transitions was, of course, the not necessarily the passing of Maxwell Williams in terms of like Jim, who had passed, but of course the departure of Maxwell Williams from Le Petit Theater, where he had been so integral a part, and we really are sorry. I talked to him the other day. He and Christina welcomed a brand new baby boy, and so we know that they're having their hands full and that they are busy, but we hope to keep Maxwell and Christina both here in New Orleans for a while. And of course, also, we had to say goodbye to Michael McKelvey over at Summer Lyric at Tulane. A great force for theater, had connections nationally, did some wonderful work. He's moved to Colorado now to be with a new theater program at a college there. We will miss him. Also, some of the other transitions from last year have echoed. Brian Sands set up the Carol Sutton and Sherry Marina Memorial Grants, which will enable companies here in New Orleans, local companies, to be able to benefit from his largesse. He's got $6,000 worth of grants this year, $12,000 for next year. Some of the other things that happened this year in terms of our being able to, I would say, integrate with theater because of the pandemic, we got to see more films. In the Heights, of course, the Lin-Manuel Miranda's Tony Award winner. We saw that in the theaters and got great reviews. Dear Evan Hansen did not get as many great reviews, I think partly because, Ben Platt was maybe a little bit old for the role of a teenager, but again, not as well received, although Stephen Levinson wrote the screenplay for that, as well as for Tick, Tick, Boom, which was, of course, a fantastic work that I think will certainly have him in consideration for an Academy Award. And of course, I'm talking about the role of Jonathan Larson that was done there so incredibly beautifully by Andrew Garfield. And again, another show that we looked at has not gotten great reviews, and I think it's had a disconnect with a lot of the younger generation, The West Side Story. We got to see that, of course, Steven Spielberg had done recently. Again, fantastic offering, though, if you get a chance to see it. Beautifully rendered, but different. Tony Kushner, of course, did the screenplay. And then finally, Lin-Manuel Miranda did Encanto, another new film that's just new in theaters. You can only see it in theaters. I would recommend this as well for people who really love theater and who also love the magic of the movies.
All right, thank you so much, Alan. And before we go to our picks of the week, wanted to visit with Claire once again briefly. Claire, tell us about yourself, darling.
Well, thank you so much, Peggy. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but have spent the last 25 years in the Pacific Northwest. I worked for both Seattle Opera and then Portland Opera before moving here. My husband and I have been in New Orleans for about a year and a half now, and boy, everyone here is just so welcoming and warm and helpful, and it's a great place to live, so we're very excited to be here. I'm hoping that my daughter and her husband and my new baby grandson will make the move down here as well.
Now, your husband's also in the biz, or?
That's right. He's an opera stage director, and he's directed all over the world, doing stage direction for many large companies, large and small. He's been at the Met, and he's been at some of the tiny little companies, and he's been here in New Orleans twice. He directed Tosca, I think it was in 2002, and most recently Macbeth in 2016. So New Orleans opera audiences are perhaps more familiar with his work than mine at this point, but that'll change.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And moving to our picks of the week, Poppy.
Well, if by chance you don't have any plans for New Year's Eve still, I'll tell you a great idea. Fulton Alley, of course, that wonderful fancy bowling alley, will be open downtown on Fulton Street from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m. both New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So you can celebrate with the kids or something to do with your friends. It'll be fun.
All right. Word to Alan.
I did want to acknowledge, as well as you did, Peggy, the passing of Ann Rice. She was a great customer of ours over at Smith's Records. She and her son, Christopher Rice, of course, who worked with her integrally. And again, I would like to just mention the fact that she was so wonderful to us when we closed our store. And, of course, my mother passed away this year, Annette Smason. But we had been great friends and great, I would say, collaborators, because we would provide a lot of the music for Ann Brennan and for Christopher later on when they would be doing their writing. So an acknowledgement there. And also I wanted to give a shout out again to Nasir Anwar from the LPO. We mentioned, Claire and the great work he's doing. But Anwar is doing just, phenomenal work with the LPO. It's a breath of fresh air. He's really got some inventive things he's going to be doing. And I know going to be working with you, Claire, and we're looking forward to seeing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Claire, a pick of the week.
Sure. Well, I'd like to let everyone know that we have an orientation for Josephine Baker. So whether or not you have tickets to the opera, you can join us on January 2nd, sponsored by the Women's Opera Guild of the New Orleans Opera, where we'll be talking about the opera, Josephine Baker, her life, and there'll be some musical excerpts as well. So more information about that is on our website. It's the afternoon of Sunday, January 2nd.
All right, that's neworleansopera.org. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, good. And my picks. WYES presents a season of good taste dinner at Briquette. That's on January the 12th. Proceeds help benefit WYES. So please go to wyes.org/events for details. The Palm Court is back with live music, including Lars Edegren and Tim Laughlin, and you can also enjoy dinner. And of course, by the way, we should say that Lars and Tim have long been stalwarts at the Palm Court, and it means so much on that wonderful Decatur Street spot. It's been there for so many years, thanks to Nina Buck, and of course, Kathy Edegren is very much a part of it too. So we really appreciate them. It's really a gem. We are indeed approaching the carnival season. On 12th night, look for the Funny 40 Fellows beginning Thursday, January 6th, 12th night with their annual streetcar ride, starting out from the Willow Street Car Barn, gathering at 6:30, departing at 7 p.m. And before we leave, we're talking about Interview with the Vampire. What was really extra nice about the reboot of that, which is being filmed in New Orleans right now, is that the executive producers were Anne Rice and her son Christopher Rice, who I understand has been very, very involved. So I think that they liked the original movie okay, but they got to do it their way this time as well. Just wanting to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all my buds here, and Happy New Year to you. Good night.
See you at the theater.
Okay.
Steppin Out is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
With a lifetime of passion for public television, we're pleased to help underwrite Steppin Out.
Please join us in supporting WYES TV.
Rouse's is proud of the creativity and the unparalleled entertainment in New Orleans, and honored to highlight it with their sponsorship of Steppin Out on WYES.